Welcome everyone to the Phoenix Elementary School Board Candidate Forum, hosted by the Phoenix Elementary Classroom Teacher Association. I am your host, Caitlin Fasano, Special Education Teacher and PECTA member.
Hi everyone, I'm your other host, Dana Ramos. I'm an instructional specialist and I am also a proud PECTA member. Let me tell you a little bit about the organization that's hosting this event tonight. We are the union for the Phoenix Elementary School District, representing all certified staff. We have a strong membership and we work hard to ensure students have access to a high quality education in our district and ensure that Phoenix #1 is a good place to work. We have quickly become one of the most active teacher associations in the Central Valley, and we plan to continue working hard for public education in our district and abroad. Tonight is a very special night. We have the privilege to learn about the candidates who are running for the Phoenix #1 Governing Board. And we, meaning PECTA members, will be choosing 3 candidates to endorse for the race.
Before we start, I want to give a huge thank you to our candidates for participating in tonight's forum. Let me explain how tonight will work. To begin, each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves. Following introductions, a host will pose a question. Each candidate will answer in a prepared order, and you will be prompted by the host. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Just to make it fair, we will give each candidate an opportunity to answer first for a question. Latoya will be keeping time. Say hi, Latoya.
Hi.
She will let you know when you have 30 seconds left and will tell you when your time is up. After that, you will be muted. Let's get started with our introductions. Jessica Bueno.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jessica Bueno, and I am a resident of the Phoenix Elementary School District. I have been living here in Phoenix for the last 5 years in downtown. And in those 5 years, I have been able to really immerse myself in the community and culture here. And I'm just very excited to be part of the community that's ever growing. I work full-time in community development. I am a small business owner in the district. I also serve on multiple organizations that focus on downtown in the downtown neighborhoods. And so I'm just very excited to be here tonight.
Thank you. Next, we have Quante Cruz.
Hi, my name is Quante, and I am a Phoenix Elementary School mom, and I've moved here to Phoenix to attend Grand Canyon University, and I've been here since 2005. I have children that attend the district. I'm vice president of our school's PTO, and I've just been really active ever since I moved here with the Phoenix area, with downtown Phoenix. I'm a real estate appraiser, and I know the city backwards and forwards, and most of my work has been done in our district. I'm really excited to be here, and I look forward to talking more with you all about the district and about myself. Thank you so much for your time.
You're muted, Caitlin.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Quante. After that, we have Nick Martin.
You're muted, Nick.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. You would think after teaching all day, I would remember to unmute. Thank you, Caitlin and Dana and Latoya and all the PECTA members who helped put this together. As mentioned earlier, my name is Nicholas Martin, and I am an Arizona native, a proud union member, but most importantly, a classroom teacher. I've served in the classroom for 5 years now as a 5th grade teacher as well. I've worked alongside Phoenix Elementary School teachers for 2 years now in regards to Invest in Ed, and I look forward to continuing to work with the community as we move forward through this election.
All right. Thank you, Nick. Next, we have Dr. Alicia Vink.
Good evening, and thank you so much for PECTA for hosting this event. I am so impressed with all of the work that you have done in the last few years and being able to watch PECTA grow. I am an educator and I have two wonderful sons, a first grader at Emerson, go Eagles, and a soon to be North High student. I am also a military spouse and a member of the Coronado community, and I have been involved with our Phoenix Elementary School District for the last few years and had the opportunity to watch PECTA grow, get involved in some committees, and be president of our Emerson Parent Teacher Organization last year and on our Emerson Site Council. And I'm just so excited to be here and get to talk with everybody tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. After that, we have Reggie Carrillo.
Hey, thank you. I want to say thank you to PECTA for providing this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Reginald Carrillo. I am currently an educator. I'm also an Arizona native. I was born in Amaraj in the same kind of community that I now teach in. I'm a product of the Arizona public school system. I attended public schools out in the West Side from my kinder years to my elementary years to my middle school years to high school. And I eventually have become the first in my family to graduate college from ASU with the bachelor's, and I am a current educator going on 7 years with the Arizona teacher certification and a master's in education for K through 8th. And so I teach social studies. I'm also currently a board member, active board member for our Transgrove Pueblo local organization, which is in the Phoenix Elementary District. I'm also an alumni of the Hispanic Leadership Institute and the Valley Leadership Institute, which is I'm mentioning as like my belief in being a lifelong learner and being invested in this community. And so thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And lastly, we have Alicia Hasso.
Hi, I'm Alicia Hasso. I'm also a native of Phoenix, Arizona. I've grown up in this area in Phoenix 1 for the past 30 years. And I am an entrepreneur, and I'm just excited to learn more about the school system and to talk with all of you tonight.
Thank you so much to all of our candidates. And let's get to the questions. Our first question of the night is, how have you been involved in our district and our community? I'll repeat it one more time. How have you been involved in our district and community? We're going to start with Jessica.
Great, thank you. So like I mentioned before, I work in community development, and luckily Phoenix Revitalization Corporation, we were birthed in Central City South, which is the area just south of downtown Phoenix, just south of the railroad tracks. So we're at 12th Street and Buckeye. And so every year we host different events that serve the community, whether it be GAIN, which is getting Arizona involved in neighborhoods. That's hosted at Harmon Park, and we invite Lowell students to come and perform. And then in the spring, we also have the Connection Fair, which is hosted at the Matthew Henson neighborhoods. And these are community fairs that we outreach to the community and make sure that they're getting the resources that they need, as well as these events also happen in the Edison Eastlake neighborhood. So I very much work and live in the community. So personally, I live in the near Capitol School, and I have volunteered my time in 2006 with at early half-day release. I had volunteered my time with practicing reading efficiency with third graders. I had also participated in the Kiwanis Club, where we donated, what is it called? Almanacs to third graders. So we I distribute them at Bethune. And I'm just very active in the community and looking for ways to plug into the district.
Thank you, Jessica. Up next, we have Quante, same question.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. So one of the things that I really want to stress today is that I am a mother of boys who attend Magnet Traditional School. I'm vice president of our PTO, and I've been really active on my local at my local school, not just helping with my kids, but with others, with tutoring, things like that. I'm also an ordained minister at Historic Tanner African Methodist Episcopal Church. I do a lot of work as a minister with children with special needs, with tutoring, with supporting young people. And I've also done, as a real estate appraiser with the assessor's office, I'm now with the state, but when I was with the assessor's office, I learned a lot about property taxes, and I consider myself a community advocate. I educate others about our property tax system, how it works, how it impacts education and our families. And I also do a lot of ministry work in the community as far as a missionary. And so I do a lot of work with that. I am a advocate of education, and not just education, but when it comes to skills that help our young people. And I'm really big on civic education. So all the things that I've learned working with the assessor's office, working in juvenile justice at the clerk of the court, all the things that I've learned, my experiences, I continue to share that with others. And so I just want to put that out there that I'm looking at, I use everything in my life that I've learned to share with other people. And I do that with the community every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Quante. Next up, Nick.
Thank you. I have been working in the Phoenix elementary community since 2018, when I marched along PECTA members and teachers across the state, marched along with them at the Capitol during Red for Ed. And it was during that time that I built relationship with the teachers here in PECTA and started to see how they grew from an organization that did not have a lot of power to, when new leadership came in, watching them take over power in the district. And it was fun to work alongside them during that time and see that process. Also in 2018, I worked specifically in the Phoenix Elementary School District to gather Invest in Ed signatures, where I was able to meet with community members and canvass with teachers from Phoenix Elementary as well. In 2019, I decided I wanted to run for office, and I wanted to run in the Phoenix Elementary School District. And I decided to get into this race early because I wanted to spend as much time meeting the community and listening to their needs. And here we are now. This summer during COVID-19, I worked with stakeholders in the Garfield neighborhood to bring meals to our families in both Garfield and Edison as well. So I've worked alongside the Phoenix Elementary School teachers for 2 years now, been involved in the community as well, and look forward to continuing to work with them.
Thank you, Nick. Next up, Alicia.
It's me, not Alicia, right?
Yes,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Did I mispronounce?
No, they both sound similar. I just wanted to make sure, sorry. So my journey in the Phoenix L community started about 5 years ago. My son was 2, and we were looking for a family-friendly community to move to, and we found the Coronado neighborhood. And we dived right into serving the community. I was part of our Coronado Neighborhood Association, the elected chair for the kids committee and the secretary for 2 years. And during that time, I was really engaged in our community, got to know the families and support our families by hosting events so families could build networks and get to know each other, sharing clothing drives, food drives, engaging with our local nonprofits. And around the time my son turned 4, I began looking for a school for him. He had spent some time in a little play-based preschool that I was doing in my home with some neighborhood kids, and it was time to move him to a public school. So I started talking to some neighbors, and I found out that a lot of our neighbors don't attend our local Phoenix L schools. And I was really confused by this. So I started doing some research, found out that what's best for my kid may not be what's best for all kids. And I want to do what's best for all kids. So I got engaged and signed my son up for Emerson. And we are deeply involved in the Emerson community on PTO and site council. And as anyone at Emerson will tell you, I'm a bit of a force and will always advocate for what's good for kids.
Thank you so much. Next up, Reggie.
Thank you. So my involvement in this community, right, I'm thinking statewide, has been over 30 years. I'm a native to Arizona. So from being a product of the public school system, I transitioned from student to teacher. I have a track record from the Capitol is literally like my second home for fighting for joining grassroots organizing efforts to fight for like oppressive policies that have created barriers for our students, from repealing from Prop 300, which acts as a barrier for our students of color by taking public funds away from them. But also more so, I was involved in the Stop Stealing from Our Kids campaign, fighting to restore funds to our public education. And then we went on to join in the efforts for the Red for Ed movement, stepping outside of our classroom. I currently teach out in South Central at a Title I school. We're on Central and Mojave. And so we literally stopped school there. They had to get substitutes. We walked over to the Capitol, joined in the march, stepping outside of our classroom for our students. And then from there, I've also joined in the efforts to gather signatures for the Invest in Ed petition to get that on the ballot. And with PECTA, in addition, I've joined in efforts to advocate for the passage of Prop 208, right? So vote for Prop 208. And then on top of that, I've always been invested. I'm rooted into this community. Being native to here, I'm very strongly rooted into this community. And so with that, okay.
You have 30 seconds.
With that, being rooted in this community, I've always been an advocate for public education, fighting for the light rail, to pass the light rail over in South Central, at the same time trying to advocate against gentrification in our community, which is something I hope we talk about in this forum.
Thank you. And finally, Alicia.
How I've been involved is really taking an interest in what my niece is learning at a Shaw school at Shaw, and that's from helping her with homework or taking an interest in like what science projects they did last year. Also, I've been involved in organizing the Arizona Mujeres Mercado last year. So that was more on the community member side and arts and entrepreneurship. Also, when I can, I try to stay active in my neighborhood in East Lake Edison by going to meetings about neighborhood services and the rebuilding of the projects near 20th Street and Roosevelt. I'm good. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and keep moving on. The next question is, what do you see as your role as a school board member? What are your top 3 priorities for our districts moving forward? I'll repeat that one more time. What do you see as your role as a school board member? What are your top 3 priorities for our districts moving forward? This time, we're going to start with Quante.
Thank you. My role as a school board member, I look at the school board member role as a representation of the community of which they represent. And that community consists of educators, of course. It consists of students, it consists of families, it consists of businesses. And I see that board member as a person who's voted in by all these people that live in this area and represent their best interest. A strong school system, strong schools build strong children, build strong entrepreneurs, build strong employees, build strong, doctors, lawyers, whatever the children end up doing, they need a strong foundation, not just at home, but also in school. My top priorities when elected would be focusing on restorative disciplinary practices. I know with things that children sometimes they make mistakes, they make bad choices. And I learned a lot about restorative justice working at the clerk of the court and juvenile justice system. And I'm very strong on that. I'm big on fiscal accountability and really looking at innovative ways to get the funding that our schools need, the funding that our teachers need, the funding that, because money is out there. There are people who want to donate, who want to help build strong schools. We just got to reach our hand out there and look. And then the last thing that I'm really big on is really building that community and building that cohesiveness of a community. You know, we're all have our different roles, but we're all one. And we're all looking to make Phoenix L be the best that it possibly can be and a school of choice for the families who live here. And so I'm really big on that cohesiveness, and that's all. Thank you.
No, thank you, Quante. Next up, we have Nick.
A school board member's number one job is to make sure that every single decision they make is through the lens of what is best for students. School boards are the smallest micro level of government, and they have the largest, most close hit to home impact on our families and our students' lives. So the number one responsibility of a board member is their budget. When it comes down to it, they are responsible, like in the Phoenix Elementary, to handle millions of dollars. And so our budget reflects our values. So my top three priorities that I hope that we can reflect not only in our budget, but also in our policies and procedures is creating a culture of equity by addressing bias and mindsets and creating professional development for educators, and also creating systems in which we figure out how are we serving the least of these in our schools. Then also I'm passionate about achievement. And how are we going to make sure that every single student is given the opportunity to achieve at high levels, and that our teachers are supported and empowered as professionals to do what's best for their students. And then finally, access for the community. When our schools are strong, our community is strong. And we have to build a partnership between our community and our schools. And I want to do that by increasing the access, not only opening pathways for the community to come to the board, but also as a board member going to my community and meeting with them and talking to them. When my students in my classroom come to me and say something's hard, I tell them it is, but we can do hard things, and we take that next step together. School board work is hard work, and it's a huge responsibility, but I know we can do hard things, and I look forward to continuing to work with us in that measure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Following Nick, we have Alicia.
My first priority would be to ensure an equitable education for all of our students. Students like myself who were raised by a single father and relied on after-school programs for a safe place to be. Students like my son who needs differentiated education in his classroom to stay engaged. Students from military families like ourselves who rely on social workers and counselors to have someone to talk to when a parent's deployed. And students like our 9 former foster children who received transportation services to avoid having to switch schools again and receive special education services to meet their needs. I believe that every student should have what they need to succeed in our schools. And by doing that, we will meet our academic achievement goals. My second priority is to streamline communication. Since our audit in 2017, communication has been a problem within the district. And I believe that streamlining it for teachers, students, and families will increase our enrollments and the success of our district. My third priority is to hold the district accountable for the statements in the recent Black Lives Matter resolution. I believe we need to continue to dismantle the systematic oppression that is holding our district back.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alicia. Reggie?
So for me, the role as a school board member, I see the role as a board member is to think long-term, is to think holistically and to be willing to collaborate and communicate effectively with all stakeholders of our public education system, especially within our community. For the good of all of our students, we need to be willing, we need board members who have a track record and who are willing to see the role beyond just the monthly meeting, beyond just the Thursday meeting that are happening, right? To be able to fight for a fully funded public education system, especially right now, since we are in the midst of a pandemic, right? More so now than ever, we need the funding to support our students. These are also my priorities, right? Full funding for public education. My other issue is focusing on equity in our school district as well as in our classroom, from the curriculum that represents our students to staff that represents our students. On top of that, I also see that we have the impact, right? To address issues that are not just happening in our classroom, but our schools, but also happening outside in our classrooms. So we need to have board members that have their ear to the ground and are really listening and are really in the know about what's happening in the community. Because as I often say, and the reason why I'm running for school board is because what happens outside of my classroom affects what happens inside of my classroom, right? From me seeing that there's a light rail being built, I need to be involved with that because it's going to affect my students. And so we need board members that can see that and say, okay, 10 years from now, where is that going to put our district? So with students, right, we see that gentrification is an issue. Our families can't afford to live here. How's that going to affect our students 5 years from now, 10 years from now? On top of that, right, we need board members who are willing to step outside of board positions and join village and planning committees, meet with council members, the mayor, to let them know what kind of support we need at the district level. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. Alicia?
My number one priority would be to already strengthen the curriculum through arts and culture, whether that be more like Hispanic cultural curriculum, and also the after school programs to make it a place where children feel safe and they can hang out after school and really bring back those after school programs that have been cut so many years in a row. My second priority would be to make sure that the teachers and students have all the resources they need. If that means going back to in-person school, what do they need to feel safe in the classroom? And also digital resources like internet access and tablets, and just make sure every student is not, no student is left behind. Thirdly is to really listen to the community back about what they want in their schools and to really do more outreach as far as what they want for their kids in the school system.
Thank you, Alicia. And lastly, Jessica?
Yes, my responsibility as a board member would be to balance the budget and make sure that funds are adequately going into our classroom and teachers. Secondly, my top 3 priorities is I am very much on a community platform. And so my first priority is the community engagement and building those bridges to make sure that we're communicating with the community effectively, and also funding our parent teacher liaison position in every school. It's very important that that position is funded because they are the conduit to the neighborhood, to the school, to the parents, to the students. Second, I believe in focusing on the foundation board. I think that is exactly where individuals that are moving to the downtown area can plug into. And I want to really help that board really build that bridge to the school board district to help us fund what is not in our budget. And then third is our, as a business owner, the message that Phoenix L is not consistent. all our schools have different looking logos. It's just the messaging, the marketing of our school district is not on par to the quality of education that we offer, the quality facilities that we offer. And we just need to get it together to make sure that we are informing families that, hey, when you give us your kids, they are going to be in good hands. And so I would like to get that image very much cohesive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on to our third question. What is your understanding about how the district spends its money? I'll repeat that. What is your understanding about how the district spends its money? And we're going to start this round of questioning with Nick.
Well, thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, the budget is the #1 priority of a school board. It's millions of dollars that they are responsible for. According to the Auditor General's report for the latest Phoenix Elementary School District report, Phoenix Elementary School District has some really good strengths within their budget. We spend more than our peer districts for the past 2 years on student support and instruction support. But when you look at, however, one thing that we can work on is we do spend overall instructionally less than our peer districts as well. If we're going to talk about equity and we're going to talk about the need for every child to succeed, we need to make sure that our budget reflects that as well. Back in 2019 and then in 2020 as well, I was at some Phoenix Elementary School Board meetings when I had to see different department heads get up and justify not having cuts to their department. I get it. It's really tough. Arizona ranks super low when it comes to the lowest when it comes to school funding. But there are things that we as a school board can do in order to make our pie a little bit larger and our funding more. And this starts by increasing our student enrollment so that then we get more funding into that as well. There's strength in our budget, but there's also some areas for growth. Some further areas for growth, according to the Auditor General's report, was plant operations and transportation as well, and administration. We need to look at how these funds are being spent and make sure that all of our dollars are going into our classrooms, to our students, and finally as well, fulfilling the 20% raise for our teachers that was guaranteed by our governor but was spent elsewhere. We need to reallocate our funds to make sure our values reflect our students, and our teachers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Next up is Alicia.
I agree with Nick and thank him for that overview of our spending. We have seen the district struggle though, and last year they nearly closed 3 schools, one that would have been Emerson, my son's school. And that was terrifying for so many families. Emerson is a neighborhood school with students whose parents have attended, students whose grandparents have attended, and that would have been devastating for our community. So our funding has got to change in a way that we do build some partnerships with other businesses that can help support us, and where we are looking at how fiscally responsible we are being so that we can continue to have these neighborhood schools and we can continue to put in programs like gardening and our Montessori and dual language and really have best practices for all of our students. We should not be funding programs for just some students. All of our students deserve to have the programs that the research says are good for them. Gardening is great for all students. All of our schools should be able to have that. We want to use our funds to ensure all students have access to things that will help them grow and learn and succeed.
Thank you, Dr. Alicia. Next up, we have Reggie.
So my understanding of the budget, based on the auditor report, is that our students per pupil student spending is pretty high, which is awesome, and our instructional support is pretty low. And then in terms of what we spend on instruction, curriculum, and development, that's also pretty high, at 4.8%. And so it's where we need to focus on the budget is on instructional support. Being an educator myself, I see that especially during a pandemic is we're not receiving that instructional support that we need to collaborate with each other, right? And so we do need our budget to reflect that we are trying to provide and augment a culture of collaboration among our teachers, because we need each other. Teachers need each other. We see each other as mentors. So we need to focus on that. And then also we need to grow our budget, right? We're having a lot of budgeting issues in the community because of the fact that families can no longer afford to live in our community because of the rising cost of living in terms of living here, right? We should not be in that position because we are literally at the epicenter of the state. We're in the capital. We're at the heart of the state in downtown, South Phoenix, West Phoenix, where business and trade gets done. And so in terms of popularity with local organizations, we have a lot of services. We have a lot of businesses that we can collaborate with to grow our budget, to give those teachers the 20% raises that 70,000 of us walked out for, right? In our community, we walked out 70,000 of us. So our budget, we have a lot of strengths, right, with instruction, but our teachers are experts. Should we be spending that much on curriculum? Again, our teachers are experts and we know how to teach our students. So I like to see a budget reflect supporting collaboration and giving teachers those 20% raises that were promised. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. Next up is Alicia.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I can. The question is, what is your understanding about how the district spends its money?
I understand that the district should give the teachers more money and give them that 20% that they deserve. We put our teachers through a lot. I think all parents can agree and all family members can agree that teachers have a hard job and they deserve that raise. And to also spend it on resources for our children. Again, laptops, iPads. If we're going to continue with this online learning, make sure that our underserved communities do have that internet access. And if we need to work with community partners like Cox and different digital services, then let's do that and spend our money wisely and really put our money into education and into the teachers and to all staff, honestly, at the school level, from janitorial to administrative to teachers.
Thank you, Alicia. Next up is Jessica.
Thank you. So my understanding from the budget is that off the top of the bat is that we need $2 million in order to operate in general. So that's always going to be my focus, is making sure that we are addressing that 2 million in order to operate our school district as is. I understand that 53% of the budget is going to instruction and we are high on the per pupil spending. So where are the results to those investments? And secondly, based off of the numbers that I've seen, we are spending a high number of funds on transportation. This is especially concerning to me because we have neighborhood schools and we should be able to host families that are in the neighborhood going to the school. So like, what is the disconnection between transportation being provided and walking to your school or using different multimodal options to get to school? As president of the Phoenix Urban Project, I very much advocate for neighborhoods to have safe access in their neighborhoods, safe streets, safe infrastructure that helps the pedestrian, bicyclist in our downtown neighborhoods. And so how can we incorporate more multimodal opportunities to get to school? And how do we start transitioning from our old buses to more electric buses that will not harm our environment so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And finally, Quante.
Thank you. So my take on the budget as everyone has stated, we do pretty well on the instruction compared to our peers. If we're comparing ourselves to our peers, we do well on instruction. We do well on the cost per pupil. I, as a parent, am very thankful that we have the transportation system that we have. At a forum, I had heard a parent talk about her being disabled and not being able to get her child to the school that had the program that she needed. And so I was just listening to what Jessica was saying. Transportation is an issue. It is pretty high compared to our peers, but there may be really serious reasons why we have those needs. One of the things I'm really big on is like the fiscal responsibility, having an internal audit and looking at what we're doing on ourselves, not just what the auditor is saying, but on our, as a district looking within, partnering with STEM organizations and organizations that deal with the arts, organizations that are doing, innovative things. When we look online, you can find so many different organizations trying out new things that help with behavior or, games or things that help, our children be their best selves. I think that partnering with outside organizations, partnering with, research departments at universities, finding partners that can help us bring the funds that we need. If we need $2 million to be sustainable, then we need to look at getting, 3 million from, our, looking at that extra million through partnerships and other ways. I'm really big on looking at another way to fund our schools. Just because Arizona is last when it comes to school funding doesn't mean that Phoenix L has to be a part of that. We can look outside the state and outside these usual funding opportunities and seize the opportunities that we haven't been necessarily looking at. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, everybody. Our next question is, what is your knowledge of our school policies, practices, and discipline? What will you do to ensure equity throughout our district, including among students, workers, and community members? One more time. What is your knowledge of school policies, practices, and discipline? What will you do to ensure equity among our students, workers, and community members? This time, we're going to start with Dr. Alicia.
So our district has been in discussion regarding this for a while, and part of this was in our audit that said our policies hadn't been reviewed in many years, and consistency among our schools is not very high. It was a concern for our educators and our administrators that our policies and procedures discipline was not consistent across the board. So I believe that we do need to continue to address the policies. They have been brought to the board monthly now for readings to improve the consistency within our district, to ensure that our teachers have a handbook that they can go to that shows everything that they need to do. That is something that PECTA has asked for. PECTA now has meet and confer meetings and an agreement with the district, and that is incredible. And as a board member, I would want to continue to work with PECTA as the voice of our Phoenix Elementary teachers so that we can ensure our policies and procedures and discipline is equitable. This is actually something that I have asked about as early as today. I emailed district and said, hey, have we reviewed just our grading procedures? Are they equitable across the district? Are our discipline rubrics equitable across the district? As a board member, I will continue to look at this collectively with the other board members and ensure that our students and our teachers are provided with equitable practices and clear communication of what those policies and procedures are.
All right, thank you, Dr. Alicia. Next, we have Reggie.
So for our knowledge, I see that our school is very much focused on equity, which I'm proud, but I know that we can always be better. We're focusing on cultural awareness policies, fostering inclusive school environments, achieving equitable achievement among our student demographic, and working to eliminate achievement gaps. For me as an educator, again, we can always be better. And every time for me, my pathway is one that is working to steer my own pathway, but my community's path towards justice and equity. And so when I say that, it's knowing that we should always be steering our policies, looking at it through an equitable lens so that we're able to get there. And then as an educator, I know that we witness acts of oppression in our classroom every single day, right? Within our students, among our students, and we see how systemic racism is built within our educational system, right? And Phoenix Out is not excused from that fact. So we need an education system that is fighting for equity. We need the training. That means that our educators need the training, the professional development, and the PLC opportunities to be able to address these issues of racism, homophobia, sexism, discrimination, prejudice that are happening in our classroom, right? When I taught kindergarten, when I taught first grade, I saw that. And so as an educator, it was my job, my responsibility to create that safe and secure environment that we wholeheartedly embrace by making sure that I was teaching curriculum that represented my students and making sure that I was addressing that my students were bringing into the classroom. But also I know that for our teachers, we need that training so we can have those uncomfortable discussions, be able to enact those uncomfortable lessons that our students need, especially during this time, during a time where our societies become more racially conscious of what's affecting people of color and communities of color. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reggie. Alicia?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm easily distracted.
No, that's okay. What is your knowledge of school policies, practices, and discipline? What will you do to ensure equity throughout our district, including among students, workers, and community members?
Okay, thank you. I do know that Phoenix One does focus on equity, and I feel that they do a good job of it, but we can only strengthen it and go further with that. Whether that means making sure that all of the students are really disciplined in the same way throughout all the schools in the district, and making sure that all the teachers are receiving the same training and are updated on new policies, and to make sure that our students really do feel that safe environment, because deep down, the kids really need to be able to trust their teachers and trust the institution of school. So if they feel that safe environment, I feel like that will be like 100% the way to go.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Jessica?
Yes. So, my perspective is always through an equity lens. So whether it be through policy or what is being implemented, I always make sure that we're covering those bases. But I am also a firm believer of meeting people where they are. So I think we need to move as a district to meet our families and students where they are and help them navigate to exceed our expectations. And I always fight for the equity component in our neighborhoods, in our policies in the city, and a lot of what is going on in the downtown development. I can't say I'm too familiar on what is going on with the policies that are currently being implemented. I'll be honest with that, but my focus is very much on the environment that our children grow up in. And so I'm focused on what is going on outside of the classroom and how can we strengthen that support to making sure that our kids are being held accountable and being looked after. And I leave it up to you, to PECTA, to make sure that inside the classroom, you know, they're getting the full benefit of an education. But yeah, I just know that equity is definitely one of my priorities, but also the reality of how policy works. This community has very much been detrimented by the racial injustice and inequities that have happened in the past and will continue to happen. And so my position is always meeting people where they are at. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Okay, next up we have Quante.
Thank you. So as a Phoenix L mom, I know firsthand how some of the disciplinary practice happened. And just from working in our school, we had a couple issues with bullying and things like that. And I got a little more involved at Magnet with that on the PTO. African-American students make up less than 8% of our student body, but they experience 20% of the out-of-school suspensions. I can talk personally about my son, and I'm fine with sharing it. He's had, you know, several incidences where a staff member or a teacher's bias really impacted him. He, you know, within like the first, 60 days of school, he had his first out of school suspension, and it was like a total misunderstanding once they actually did the research. I think that we have to treat children as individuals. There are a lot of children that are, you know, each child is different. Some are well-mannered, some are busy. I mean, we, you know, as much as we would like to make things really rigid and, you know, make, you know, each child accountable on, you know, each way, we have to treat them as individuals. We have to look at our biases and look at the things that, as us as adults, the things that we put on each other and on children. I'm not saying it just for children, it's the things that we put on adults. I would continue to partner with PECTA, continue to partner with in addressing the audit that was done last year, and continue to really look at training our teacher, staff, and families about adverse childhood experiences, how that impacts children, and how sometimes a child may be having a behavior, but it may be because of something going on at home, or it may be because of something that happened in school, like bullying. I think that we really need to look at things, each individual incident. And I think that we need to have an open mind about restorative justice practices and teaching children, training them up to make good choices, and not demonizing them if they make bad ones. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And lastly, we have Nick.
I mentioned earlier in one of my answers that I think it's important when something is good about a school district to make sure we point it out. And Phoenix Elementary, about a year ago, put together their equity plan. And I know that that's one of the process and policies, and they based their 6 equity goals off of Bradley Scott's work around equity. And then they created systems within the school focused around implicit bias training, culturally responsive pedagogy, culturally responsive curriculum in the classrooms as well, and others too. So they have a equity plan that has been put together, and talking with teachers in the district, it was put together really well with teachers, parents, district officials as well. But our equity plan can't just be a plan. It can't just be a superintendent's goal. It can't just be a document sent out to our teachers. Equity is a culture. When I said schools for all is my campaign slogan, that's deeply rooted in my own philosophy. It's why I'm going back for a master's in special education, because I truly believe every student can succeed. And that is the mindset we need on a board. And we need to demonstrate that and be the leaders and let that be our culture in the district. And then from there, we can set up the systems and procedures and policies in place. For example, maintaining stakeholderships with ASU to make sure that we are getting teachers from their teacher prep program that represent the students that are in our district as well, increasing those partnerships, making sure that we have equitable practices when it comes to discipline. Phoenix Elementary School District is a PBIS district, positive behavior interventions and support. There are a lot of really good things that Phoenix Elementary is doing when it comes to equity, but we have to make sure that we take that policy and that passion for it and actually turn it into action and make sure it is implemented. And as a board member, I'm going to make sure I continue to hold our executive cabinet and others accountable and make sure we model as a board as well what equity should look like in our district.
Thank you so much. That was a great round of questioning by you all. Our next question is, how will you address declining enrollment? I'll repeat that question. How will you address declining enrollment? And we're going to start this round with Reggie.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier too that I hope we get to talk about these issues of declining enrollment, because as I had mentioned in gentrification, declining enrollment is directly connected to the gentrification of our community. It's directly related to light rail, to all the development that's happening, right? And so I want to really speak about what I've already been doing to address declining enrollment, not directly being tied with the Phoenix Owl district, but in terms of my own school teaching and the community I do in South Central at a Title I school in a historically and systematically underfunded community as a result of redlining and segregation. So one thing I did was join in the light rail efforts, because I saw that a light was being shined on to these businesses, and they were really capturing the concerns of business owners who most did not live in the community. So I stepped on because as I always said, that our most vulnerable population are our students, specifically our students of color. And I really stepped on to fight and advocate for families, for students. I don't have any biological students, but I do have 150 students that, for example, all just went through my Zoom classroom today, but ordinarily would have went through my physical classroom today. And so I stepped on to advocate that we do need the light rail, but also to address these issues of gentrification for our students, and to make sure that our families can still afford to live here. And so part of addressing student enrollment is, again, seeing beyond your role as a school board member. For me, it'd be seeing beyond my role as an educator, because again, what happens outside of my classroom impacts my classroom. And I want to make sure that I'm meeting with council mayors, with mayors, stuff that I've already been doing right, people who have been on village and planning committees, and making sure that they are in the know, and that making sure that if they're not concerned, making them concerned that these are the issues that our school district are dealing with, and we need to collaborate in order to deal with these issues. Because again, we're the heart of the state, we're in the capital, we should not be having these issues.
Thank you, Reggie. Up next is Alicia.
I would address declining enrollment by really retaining the teacher staff. And I do feel like that has a lot to do with the housing, because of the rising cost of housing. A lot of teachers can't afford to live in the district with the urbanization of downtown. A lot of times they're moved out of the district because of pay, and also because they can't afford the housing here. So if that means partnering up with community builders, and maybe like setting aside some housing for the teachers as a whole, so we can really like keep our teachers, and also to retain our kindergartners, because just with COVID, I know that they've had a hard time with people sending their kids to school for the first time, and they're afraid to. And so the kindergarten enrollment has really declined. So if we can get them young and get them enrolled in school and keep them in school, I think that would really address that declining enrollment number. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Up next, we have Jessica.
Yes, thank you. The declinement in enrollment, I'll be honest, every school district is facing declinement in enrollment. Millennials aren't having kids. I'm guilty. I don't have kids. But I am trying to find solutions on how we accommodate low enrollment and still providing the resources that we need in order for our students to achieve excellence. So again, that goes to the foundation board, but in general, you know, I'm advocating for families, for housing to be developed in downtown for families. I work with developers and inform them that, hey, your micro studio, you know, 17-story tower is not housing the families that I need in order for this school district to thrive. In response, they respond with they're applying for GPLETs, which is a tax incentive and allows 10% of workforce development housing. And they tell me that we're reaching out to the district and making sure that teachers are able to live in the district. So if that's not happening, y'all let me know that they're not letting you know that you get workforce housing. And I'm just very much advocating for more housing, not micro units. We need 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. We are seeing that in the development of Edison Eastlake, which is the redevelopment of the existing Phoenix Housing Department, and those will have 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. But what other areas that are the private investment, where can I advocate to make sure that homes are being developed for our families? Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Up next, we have Quante.
Thank you. How would I address declining enrollment? Parents are looking for schools where teachers are properly supported and funded, where the classrooms are properly funded and supported, and where they know that the teachers will have what they need to be successful, right? Teachers are on the ground, they're teaching the kids, they're seeing kids with special needs, kids with behavioral problems, kids with all these different needs, and they have this classroom management that they have to manage. If a teacher doesn't have what they need, if the teacher doesn't have say they want to do something different, say they want to do something out of the box, they need to have the funding to do that. Parents are also looking for schools that are specialized. If you have a child who's big into music, or a child who's big into STEM, or a child who's big into certain different programs, right? Parents are looking for that. We could look at diversifying some of our schools. We could look at adding new programs, adding new things that can make our district more attractive. Another thing that we should look at is just overall marketing. You know, I, as a parent, I had no idea about the district until I had to really search and look for schools that I was looking for. And I was looking for Montessori in particular before I moved here. And so a Montessori program is what I was looking for. And they had that at Shaw or at Faith North at the time. And so it's all about putting things out there, putting all the good things that we're doing out there, making sure that the world knows the great things about Phoenix L and what we're doing, and making sure that we give our teachers what they need to be successful. We also need to address equity and let families know that when they bring their children here, that they're going to be well looking after. And I think that if we continue to promote the great things about our district, continue to look at specialized programs like Montessori and things like that, that are really catching the eyes of parents in our area and in our county, that's where the schools that are growing, they have these specialized programs, and they're really looking into, diversity programs and things like that. And so I would just continue to, promote the great things that we're doing, and continue to connect with our community and get the word out there about Phoenix L and the programs that we have, and look at innovative programs that we may not have yet, but it might be something that parents are looking for. Taking Google and seeing what parents are looking for. Parents in Phoenix are Googling this, and then looking to see how we can address that. Because parents are out there looking and searching for schools. They don't have to live in a district to attend. Thanks.
Thank you, Quante. Up next, we have Nick.
One of the very first events I went to in Phoenix Elementary as a candidate was after I heard that they were going to shut down some of their schools. And I saw that the families had learned about that in the Arizona Republic. The event I went to was a community forum that was hosted by PECTA, and also family members that were there as well. So it was a group of different stakeholders. And one thing they talked about was the lack of collaboration between the community and what they want to see in their schools and what the district is doing with the schools. It's time that, as I was saying earlier, we got to increase that access, and we have to go to our community and ask them, what do you want from our schools? And we have to pursue them as well and figure that out. Right before COVID hit, I know that there were some big community meetings that were going around at different places. So I went to those, and I hope to continue to support those when we come back. But also we have to be innovative. In my classroom, I don't get the opportunity to sit back and do stuff from the 1960s, 1970s. I constantly have to be rethinking about my innovation and my pedagogy, and we have to do the same with our policy and how we see our schools. Charter schools and school choice have put us in a tricky game, and we have to learn how to market ourselves, and we have to learn how to make parents want to choose our schools. And finally, another way we're going to do this is by holding our leadership in our district accountable. As we have seen declining enrollment for the past years, not one of our superintendent's goals has ever been about increasing student enrollment. And so we need to make sure as the board, we set the superintendent's goals, and we need to make sure it reflects the needs in our district. Because if it doesn't reflect the fact that we have declining student enrollment, that means that we are shrinking our budget, which means we're not reflecting our values, that we honor our teachers, we want our students to succeed. So we need to make sure we collaborate with our community, we're innovative in our practices, and we hold our leadership accountable to making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And last up, we have Dr. Alicia.
So declining enrollment is near and dear to my heart because Emerson is one of our lowest enrolled schools in the district. But like Quante, when I started looking for a school for my son, I didn't know about Emerson, and the neighbors weren't talking about Emerson. So marketing is a huge issue in our district, and it all goes back to communication. How are we communicating to the community the amazing things we're doing in these schools? Because when I did walk into Emerson, I could see the love that these teachers had for their students and the passion that was there. And I was excited to learn more about it. But in order to kind of address that lack of marketing and whatnot, the district started a marketing and rebranding committee, which I participated in. And what we learned was that it isn't about really the program at the school. It's about connecting families. It's about word of mouth. It's about mamas like Quante and I. Did you meet that mama at the park? And did she say, my kid goes to Emerson and it's incredible. The teachers love him there. The teachers support him and the teachers are supported. The district provides the students what they need. And for our district to increase our enrollment, we need to provide all of our students what they need. Our signature schools those programs need to exist in all of our schools. All of our students should have access to dual language, gardens, art programs. In order to increase enrollment, we have to engage our families and provide our students and our teachers what they need.
All right, thank you all for answering that question. Our next big question is, how will you support and retain educators with looming budget cuts? How will you retain and support educators with looming budget cuts? This time we're going to start with Alicia.
I would retain the educators with the looming budget cuts by really listening to them and seeing what they need. I think our listening to the teachers and really taking into account what they need in their classrooms and what they would feel that would keep them in the classroom in Phoenix 1 is a number one priority. Honestly, I don't know how we can do that besides really listening to the teachers. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alicia. Next, Jessica, would you like to answer?
Yes. So again, I'm setting the stage for making sure that our district is achieving excellence, and I want to make sure that we are hiring teachers that are meeting that criteria, making sure that they are engaged with our students. And so again, I'm fighting for Prop 208, vote yes. I collected signatures. I'm out there advocating, making sure get the word out, making sure that we get enough money into our classrooms and for our teachers to retain the quality of teachers that we need. And then most importantly, in order for us to keep our teachers, I think we need to really invest in their personal development. Are we really providing the targeted development that they need as teachers? That is something that I look to PECTA in direction to make sure that we're meeting the needs and requirements to support you all. So I, again, very collaborative and will work with PECTA to continue to make sure that we are getting the proper resources and teachers in our classroom. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. Before we move on, I did just want to remind everybody that we need to mute after our responses. And with that in mind, Quante, would you like to answer next?
Sure. One of the things that that I noticed, and this is in a different sector, but with the assessor's office, they had a big retention problem. And one of the things that we did was invest in the actual appraisers. And something similar to what Jessica was saying about professional development, we need to make sure that when teachers come in, they know that the district supports them and their goals 100%. Be that like a career development program or opportunities, you know, not just the teachers seeking opportunities, not just PECTA seeking opportunities, but also the district seeking opportunities that will help our teachers. We're all in this together. Teachers don't always have time to sit there online or, you know, go to all these meetings sometimes. And sometimes we just need to be mindful and keep our ear to the ground. Some teachers may, you know, some people come into education for a lot of reasons. Some people come in because they love it. Some people come in because they thought they would love it, but that's what their degree is in. People come in for different reasons. Wherever teachers are, they need to know that this district supports them. We support their goals and we want them to be successful. In order to help them be successful, we need to help them on their own journey. We can't look at teachers just like students as if they're all the same and everybody has the same goals. I'd rather look at each individual teacher at each individual school and look at how, you know, I can support them, how the district can support them. I am big on resources. I'm big on finding resources. I'm big on asking for resources. And that would be my goal. I would look for opportunities to help teachers with what they need. And if we don't have something, then we can create it. Just because something isn't around doesn't mean that we can't make it happen. We just need to think outside the box and get together and do what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Quante. Nick, you're up.
Thank you. How do I support teachers? Well, as a teacher, my story is my student's story. It's a story of overcrowded classrooms, a lack of supplies, excessive testing, but it's also a story of resiliency. It's a story of knowing what it takes in my classroom to work hard to make sure my students succeed. And that's a similar story of my colleagues and teachers across the state. One of the ways I'm going to support teachers is I know what it's like in the classroom, and I am able to be empathetic as well and come from a place of understanding. We need to make sure we are taking whatever we can off of our teachers' backs right now. COVID-19 has the opportunity to drive our teachers out of the classroom due to the stress, and things like district testing and other policies and procedures should not get in the way or drive our teachers out of the classroom. I'm going to support educators by supporting their union. I'm a union member myself. I know the power of a union, and I know that when our district and our teachers work in tandem, then our schools best thrive, and the experts of our classrooms are our teachers. So I'm going to make sure I respect and continue to uphold the bargaining agreements and the recognition of PECTA as an association by the board, and welcoming them to the table on committees and through forums as well, and continue to support them there. And then finally, if we're going to retain our teachers, we have to empower them as professionals. They went to college, they got degrees in this. They know what they're doing. And yet so many times you try to come in and tell teachers how their classrooms need to work. Look, it's time that we give our teachers some autonomy with accountability still, but autonomy in their classrooms to be the professionals that they are. And then finally, if we're going to say we value our teachers, we need to pay our teachers. And I know the budget cuts are coming, but Prop 208 is coming too. And we have an opportunity to say, no matter what, if we value our teachers, that's our priority as we get these funds in as well. So we're going to continue to, through the budget, give them their raises. We're going to bring them to the table and respect them as a union as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Next, we have Dr. Alicia.
I absolutely agree with Nick that we do want to ensure our teachers are paid well, and Prop 208 needs to go through so that they can continue to receive the salaries and additional funds that they're receiving. However, when I was in the classroom, what made me come to work every day was being able to engage with those faces and feeling connected to them because I was also connected to their families. I feel that a partnership with the families is what creates a strong school and a strong classroom. And bringing those families in, I was able to have coffee chats with the families in the mornings. Once a week, I would bring in the families and the kids would watch cartoons on the rug, and I would sit with those families and learn about them and what they needed. And likewise, those families learned about what we needed in the school so that they could come back and support our district. Those voices, the parents' voices, they matter, and collectively they're strong, and we want them to be in partnerships with our teachers so that they can advocate with us to ensure that our teachers are well paid, that our families are voting for Prop 208, that our teachers do have their voices heard, and that PECTA is consistently respected and brought in all of our committees so that we can retain our teachers and create those strong partnerships and connections.
Thank you, Dr. Alicia. And rounding out this question, we have Reggie.
Thank you. So how we support and retain our teachers, for me, being a teacher, right? Stepping outside the classroom, for one, is thinking systematically. Speaking to our local and state leaders in terms of retaining our teachers is fighting for that public funding. We need, what keeps me in the classroom as an educator, what keeps me retained is that, is those opportunities for PLC opportunities that our administration fosters, and also that incentive pay. And I know PECTA is doing a lot of work, right? The $1,000 plus $500 bonus, keeping teachers coming back. So we need to respect that and really listen to PECTA because they are the voice of our educators and listening to what educators want, right? In terms of that too, is also providing a supportive atmosphere. As a teacher, what keeps me at my school is that I feel like I'm being listened to, I'm being supported, my needs are being met as a teacher. And so we need to make sure our teachers at Phoenix Out are feeling that, are experiencing that too, right? We're in the midst of a pandemic and we need to make sure that, right, we're serving students, we're serving parents, but we need to reach out to our teachers and ask them, what do they want? How can we meet their needs in this pandemic, right? Do they feel safe returning to the classroom? I, for one, definitely not, right? So we have an administration that allows us to work from home because we're being listened to. And then also providing those opportunities for empowerment, financial empowerment, making sure they get 20% raises, but also for vocational empowerment too, right? We need to look within our school system at the teachers who are already leaders, who are already showing their experience. Sometimes we don't want to step out of the classroom as teachers, but we see that we have the duty to step outside in roles. So I want to make sure that teachers know they can gain upward mobility in terms of vocation. And then lastly, in terms of the pandemic, we know budget cuts are coming and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support our teachers financially and make sure that they feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And on to our next question. What is your perception of PECTA and its role in the district? I'll repeat that question. What is your perception of PECTA and its role in the district? And we're going to start this round with Jessica.
Great. So my perception of PECTA is a community of teachers that are fighting for their students inside and outside of their classroom. You all are a mighty bunch, and I respect you for all your efforts that you're doing for Prop 208, and I thank you for advocating for our students. And I look to you guys for guidance and making sure that we're meeting your expectations, our students' expectations, and making sure that our district is progressing in the direction that we need to go towards. So my perception again is that you guys are very well organized, caring, and really want to make sure that the Phoenix Elementary School District is adequately meeting the needs of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Next up, Quante.
So my perception of PECTA is a group of teachers who are committed to this district, committed to the children, and committed to each other. I see PECTA as a community partner. As a parent, I see them as you guys as a community partner, as a partner when it comes to PTOs, when it comes to everything. You know, PECTA is really looking out for the classroom. You guys have your ears to the ground with that. You guys see what's happening in real time, see what the challenges are in real time, and you guys are able to, you know, do what you need to do, band together and get that message out to the rest of us and to the community so we can support you. I also see PECTA as a group of teachers who are also mindful of the challenges that each other have. You know, one teacher might be having a great experience and another one may have, you know, a bad one, and you guys are able to support each other and get what you guys need. The amazing thing about PECTA is that, you know, you guys are looking out for teachers, you're looking out for students, and you're looking out for other support staff. And so I just really support you guys and all you do. And I look at you guys as a partner. And like I said before, innovative partnerships are everything when it comes to community. There is no strong Phoenix L without a strong PECTA, without a strong PTO, without a strong business presence. We need everyone on board to make this district a desirable district and a district that parents and students want to call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Quante. Up next, Nick.
I have two different perceptions of PECTA. I have a perception as PECTA as a union member, and I have a perception of PECTA as a educator. As a union member, I remember a couple of years ago when we started to hear these whispers of a local union that was beginning to organize and get collected. And then there was an election where some leadership took over, and next thing you know, buttons were being passed out, flyers were everywhere, and everyone was hearing about PECTA Strong in our union. And so what I know about PECTA, my perception of them is that they are organizers and they are advocates as well. In my work in the union, I also helped with gathering signatures with them through Invest in Ed, going out into our community and talking to our families through campaigns and volunteering with people from Phoenix Elementary and PECTA. But also my perspective is as an educator, because we know that our teachers are the number one, have the number one impact on our students and our communities when it comes to our schools. And one thing I know about PECTA is they are professional, and their professionalism and their advocacy has led to them being recognized by the board. And it's important that we continue to maintain that relationship and that agreement between the board and PECTA, because we know due to Arizona law, we have to have board members who are friendly and understand the role that our union plays. So my perception of PECTA is one of people who came together and are organizers and are advocates, but also professionals within their district who fight for their classrooms as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Up next, Dr. Alicia.
As a parent, I have been incredibly thankful for PECTA as a partner in my child's education and as an organization that has engaged with families regularly. I have had the privilege of getting to know many of our PECTA members who, many of them actually live in my community, and they engage with our community every single day, talking about issues within the district and education as a whole. PECTA is a voice for our students, our families, and most importantly, the teachers, to ensure that they have what they need. And as a board member, that voice of PECTA is powerful and important. And I want to ensure that we continue the partnership with PECTA to make sure that we are hearing them and making policies that are supporting our teachers so that we can retain teachers and boost enrollments and create those partnerships with families.
Thank you, Dr. Alicia. Up next, we have Reggie.
So for me, I see PECTA as this beautiful professional organization, right? This local organization within the Phoenix Elementary School District. And so what I've seen from that is that they've really brought in a lot of advocacy for teachers. And I see that in the form of the, what I would say demands, right? Because this is what we need to have, is the incentive pay. What teachers are getting in terms of when they return, what teachers are getting in terms of being certified, and that incentive pay, fighting for smaller class sizes so we don't feel as overwhelmed, putting caps on for what's in our classroom, limiting after work hours, right? What is burden as teachers, right? We don't have this normal 8-hour workday, and a lot can be put on our plate. So it's important that we have organizations fighting for that, fighting to make sure that we're not burdened by that, and then fighting for equitable prep time, and then duty-free lunch, right? So there's a lot of great things as an educator that I would love to have at in my school, fighting to make sure that, again, I keep returning, that I'm retained, incentivizing to keep returning and feeling I'm respected, right, and supported. So PECTA is really a model that should be replicated within other districts, and I'm happy to stand in solidarity with PECTA as an educator, still in the classroom going on 7 years, making sure that all educator needs are met at the Phoenix Elementary School District in order to protect our students. And I see that PECTA's advocacy is one that is supporting future leadership in the community, right? It's called like Nopal, it can be just
30 seconds.
Grow from anywhere. So I see that happening. And then we need to make sure that as board members, once elected, myself included, is that we count on PECTA for guidance. And then especially we count on them to hold us accountable for the decisions that we're going to make. And so for me personally, as an educator, I have this open door policy, and I want PECTA to know that that is still going to be true, right? I'm still going to be an educator. I'm still going to have that open door policy to make sure that I'm accessible, especially when you need to know why I'm making the decision, but also my decisions are guided by PECTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. And finally, we have Alicia.
My perspective of PECTA is that they really do have the best interest of the students at heart, and that they're a community of teachers that really, that they really embrace their community of teachers, and that they have their ear to the ground, and that they're a cohesive voice for what we as board members would want to know what the teachers are going through, and that other teachers will feel comfortable within that community of PECTA. So I really appreciate what they do, and forums like this to get everyone involved and everybody engaged into what's really happening at the district level. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. So our last question is a two-parter. Why should you be elected to the board, and how will you be accessible if elected? So one more time, why should you be elected to the board, and how will you be accessible if elected? This time we are going to start with Quante.
Thank you. So I should be elected to the board because I'm not here to do the status quo. I'm also not here to just shake things up, but I am looking for ways to improve what we are already doing and find ways to fund the things that we want to do. I'm here looking for ways that we can collaborate and come together and heal as a community, looking at our students and our teachers and staff as individuals, and looking to really support and undergird everyone that's a part of this Phoenix Elementary School District system. In order for us to be great, everyone must be supported. And maybe people don't need the same things and support may not look the same, but we still want to support one another. We need to support families. We need to support, parents and grandparents that are raising grandchildren. We have a district that is very diverse, and our resources, the things that we do, how we address concerns when we're making these decisions like closing Emerson, we need to think about the grandmother who has an autistic son who's in that program at Emerson and how she is wheelchair bound and can't get him over there to a different school. We need to really think outside the box. And that's something that I will commit to doing. When it comes to accessibility, I am going to be available. I'm available, and as a parent, I want to be able to reach, teachers, reach students, and not, in some insane way where what's what I'm looking for, where we are intruding, but in a way that we're constructive. I will be accessible and I will be ready to discuss anything. If there's emergencies that need to be addressed, I'll be ready. And I'll always be available to teachers, staff, other board members, the superintendent. All of us need to come together, and I'll be available at any time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Quante. Next for the question, Nick.
The first and foremost reason I should be elected to the board, number one, is because I love our public schools and I am passionate about education. And I have also the track record to back that up as well. Being a union member and serving on my executive board, leading a successful campaign in my school district that got our school $170 million through a bond and override, and then having to work with parents and community members to allocate those funds within the budget. I've also worked with the stakeholders and nonprofits here in Garfield to help provide meals for our families here. So it's more than just passion, but it's also the hard work that I've put into our communities. This isn't a race to me. This is an opportunity for us to be able to improve our schools, improve the lives of our teachers, and ultimately improve our students' academic success as well. I've done the hard work, and I'm ready to also work hard collaboratively on the board to make sure that we are implementing and ensuring policies that allow for all students to achieve. When it comes to, and I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting the second part of that question there. What was that second part of the question?
How will you be accessible if you are elected?
Thank you. I think as board members, thank you so much. I think as board members, once in a while, we also just need to be practical. And two practical steps I think we could take to being accessible is number one, making sure our board meetings are live streamed after COVID-19 when they're meeting back in person still, making sure we still live stream our board meetings, and also making sure we're providing captions and translation for our families, but also having that open door policy, visiting our schools, going into our classrooms, seeing our students learn, seeing our teachers teach, going to community events, and seeing how our community works together and being present. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Next, Alicia. Dr. Alicia, excuse me.
I should be elected to the board because I'm a mama and my little guy is not in right now, but online at our schools every single day. And our family is impacted by the amazing work that our educators do every single day. I have been in our schools. I have talked with our teachers. I have cried with our parents. especially now, because this online learning is real hard. We need parents with children in our schools on the board. I have entrusted this district with the most precious person in the world to me. We know that mamas, they would lay in front of a train for these babies. So I vow to fight for our community, for our district, for our teachers. I have entrusted these teachers with my baby, and I hope that our teachers will entrust me as a board member to make policies that improve their working conditions and support them and support our students and their achievements and ensure an equitable education. I support our district parents and I support Quante because she's a mama, and I think mama voices are needed in this district to continue to support our educators and our families and our students. And I am accessible because I am always there. I show up at those board meetings, at the PTO events. I'm checking in with our teachers. I'm checking in with our families. How are you doing, Mama? This is hard. I hope that I can join our board and work together with our board members.
Thank you, Dr. Alicia. All right, next up, Reggie.
Yeah, so I'm counting on your support and to be elected because I've been a student in the public education system from my kinder years to being the first in my family to graduate from ASU, holding a bachelor's and a master's in education. I've had many students come through my classroom over 7 years of teaching. So I'm not a biological parent, but each one of those students that come through my classroom, I love and I hold precious, right? And so I'll be sitting on the board while still continuing to teach during this pandemic. So I'll be bringing that experience to the board. I have a track record of fighting for justice and equity for our students and for our communities of color in Phoenix that expands over 10 years. And as a board member, we should have, as a school district, we should have a board that reflects our students of color, right? Over 86% of our, 86% of our demographic is Latino. As a board member, I would represent our student population. As an educator, I would represent our educators and be able to listen to them. As a person with a disability, I will represent in terms of accessibility. As a queer person of color, also to bring that representation and that lived experiences. So when I talk about accessibility, when I talk about representation equity, it's not just theory, it's not just research. I've actually lived this as a student, as a native to Arizona. And I've made it my mission, my passion to steer our future towards justice and equity. And I've currently, in terms of fighting for our families, I've joined Safe Schools for All Students, fighting to dismantle systemic racism, listening to parent concerns. That's accessibility to me. We delivered over 2,000 signatures to our governor to continue to keep schools closed so that, and to fully fund virtual learning. In terms of accessibility, right, I bring it to the board accessibility, having an open door policy. And I really do mean that, right? Because Phoenix is this bottom up, PECTA is this bottom up organization that can really guide us. And so I want to continue working with PECTA, listening to them in their guidance, and continue to provide opportunities and spaces for our families of color to really be engaged and know what's going on in the Phoenix OWL community. And seeing beyond our presence and advocating beyond school board members, beyond that monthly Thursday meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. All right, Alicia, it's your turn.
All right, thank you. Voters should vote for me, Alicia Hasso, because I'm a community member who has a diverse background. And I feel like I really do know the district growing up here in Central Phoenix and living here for all of my life. I feel like I do know the district. I'm a great listener. I'm a hard worker and I don't give up. And I love to collaborate with teachers, parents, and just really get involved with everyone and all the stakeholders involved. I would remain accessible because I just believe in open and clear communication. And I believe with your help, I can be a great board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. And our last answer for our last question, Jessica.
Yes, thank you. Why you should vote for me is because I've been investing in this community for the last 5 years. I very much have my ear on the ground and I know every piece of dirt that is moving in this district, whether it be, development going on downtown, the redevelopment of public housing in Edison Eastlake, the light rails, the 2 extensions that we have in our district, South Central and to the Capitol. These are projects that are going to impact our communities, and I am the advocate that is at the table to make sure that the impact to our communities is not detrimental to the school district. I'm asking for your support because as a small business owner, I know what it takes to balance a budget and manage facilities that we are currently operating and don't operate. I am very much in the long planning part of making sure that the district is successful. So all the dirt that is moving in the downtown neighborhoods is long-term planning. So I am involved in the land reuse strategy that is affecting Herrera. I am involved in the infrastructure projects that are happening to our neighborhoods in South Central in the Capitol. I am involved in the Edison Eastlake neighborhood. So everything that is going on in the neighborhoods, I am well aware of and know how it impacts our community. The way that I will be accessible is by going to each and every school. I am going to make a commitment to make sure that I am visiting our classrooms and making sure that I am accessible and building those relationships with our principals, our parent teacher liaisons, our vice principals, PECTA. Every single day on my way from home to work, I pass Capitol, Bethune, Lowell, and Herrera. Every single day, I keep an eye on these facilities and these schools, and I make sure that I'm advocating for our neighborhoods. So I really much appreciate Caitlin, Dana, and Latoya for hosting us tonight, and I really am honored to be here tonight.
Well, thank you so much to our candidates. I wish you all luck. And for those of you who are watching at home, if you go to our PECTA page on Facebook, you'll be able to find more information about each of the candidates. So you'll be able to find their social media or their websites. This election is really important for lots of reasons, right? Who you choose to vote for impacts our district and the lives of students and teachers for years to come. So make sure that you vote. If you have not yet requested your ballot by mail, you must request that by October 23rd by 5 p.m. However, you should request your ballot as early as possible. If you are already signed up for early voting, your ballot should be coming in the mail by October 7th. You can actually track your ballot, right? Shout out to Adrian Fontes for that. Make sure that your ballot gets in the mail early enough, or you can always drop it off at any polling place. We cannot sit this one out, guys. This is so important. The point is vote, however you're going to vote, by any means necessary. And make sure that you vote down the ballot. That's where our school board candidates will be. And of course, make sure that you vote yes on Prop 208, hashtag Invest in Ed.
And for the PECTA members out there that are watching, after the forum tonight, you will be able to vote for your top 3 candidates. The 3 candidates with the most votes will receive the PECTA endorsement. Look out for an email in your personal email account for the link and on social media. This vote is for PECTA members only, another perk of membership, so join. Voting closes at 7 p.m. on Friday. With that, thanks so much to everyone for tuning in. Thanks to our candidates. Thank you to the PECTA Elections Committee. And thank you to everyone for your hard work putting this together. Good night.